Welcome to Towle Talks. Today we talk about transforms. Hello, my name is Dr. Bradford Allen Towle Jr. and today we're going to talk about transforms in Unity, mainly considering the situation where we have to rotate our object, but we still want to be able to fire forward or whatever the object's facing. This is not trivial unless you use the built-in functions for Unity, which makes it really nice, but if you had to do this on your own, there's actually quite a bit of math that goes into this. Luckily for us, Unity has the helper functions set up, and we're going to talk about those today. Hello. So, there's a last video on prefabs, and basically this will be on transforms now. So what we're going to do here is we're going to ignore this. I just was testing with another script. Let's go to our script that we have, our tank script. So I'll minimize this. Placement, thank you. And what we're going to do is we're going to go look for the rigid body right now. Public rigid body my rig. Then on the start, we're going to say my rig equals this dot get component rigid body. Again, this is on the tank, not the bullet. We already did this for the bullet. If we look down, if we remember, we look down here, we did this for the bullet right here. But we're going to do this for the tank now. So go ahead and get the rigid body for the tank. The idea is we want to rotate the tank left and right. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn gravity off and just let the tank sit in the air. So it's as if we're looking down on the tank now instead of a platform game. And what we're going to do is after we have the rigid body, we're going to say get axis raw horizontal. If it's less than 0, we're going to say myrig.angular velocity. We haven't used angular velocity before. And this is a little bit different than Unity 4. Unity 4 used quaternions, which on a physics level is correct. On a ease of use is not correct. So now we get Euler angles. So new vector 3. I'm going to say 0, -5, 0. So I'm going to rotate at -5, I want to say degrees. I'll double check. It might be radians. -5 something. I think it's radians now I think about it. But this will be rotating -5 radians per update per second, I guess. And it's going to be around the y-axis. So if remember, y is vertical, so we have a platform game with facing right, so we'll be turning away and to the camera with this. Likewise, if the input get axis raw is greater than 0, then I want to set it to the opposite vector. Angular velocity equals new vector 3, 0, 5, 0. One thing we have to be careful of, this is setting the angular speed, it's not setting the rotation. So a lot of people get confused and say, okay, I want to rotate to this angle, so they set the rotation to an angle, and then the thing just moves instantaneously. This is actually going to be doing the movement. This is going to be creating the movement for us. Obviously, if I have neither of those two buttons pressed, I want to simply say angular velocity equals the 0 vector. So now, let's see what this does to our tank and see what's going to happen. First of all, we want to get rid of gravity, so we'll go there in a moment. Make sure we have my rig is set and have your input set up. You can pause the video if you need to. We'll save this. We will minimize that, open this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our tank now. And just to be on the safe side, I don't know why this just keeps happening. We're going to get rid of gravity. So we go to a rigid body on a tank. We have use gravity as 0. We could actually use gravity and just have it rotate on the ground. So we can just do that. I was thinking originally we'd rotate around to Z, but this works. So let's run it. And now if I turn left and right, you see my tank is in fact turning left and right. And I have kind of a cool looking perspective. I can see the whole tank now. So I fire, it's working perfectly, and then, uh-oh, problems start happening. No. Okay, so that didn't work. What's happening? Well, you notice though that the bullet was still being spawned in the correct spot. If you look, so here, the bullet's being spawned there, which is about where we wanted it. It might be a little bit too far out. And here, it's hard to see, but the bullet is actually being spawned in that spot. It's just moving to the right too fast. So how do we change, what's going on? Well, we have to remember we hard-coded the speed. So let's go back to our Visual Studio. We hard-coded the speed to go 15.5 and then 0. So 5 vector up, 15 to the right. This is the speed that the bullet's going to go. So now we have to rethink how we're going to do speeds. Up until now, we've kind of just hard-coded it. Now we want to do it in terms of the direction we're facing. So we're going to use the same mechanism we used for the spawning. We're going to say this.gameObject.transform.right. This is going to give me the vector that my tank's right, or the right is. So even if I rotate it 180 degrees, it's still going to be facing right in perspective of the tank, which is going to be the opposite direction. So we'll say equals, instead of this, we'll say this.transform.right. And then what we can do is times, let's do times 5 plus new vector 3, 0, so 0, comma 5, comma 0. So wait, what just happened here? So I've now said that whatever vector is right for me, so like this is my right, but now I rotate, now this is my right. I rotate again, now this is my right. Whatever vector is right for me, that's the vector that the bullet's velocity is going to go on. I've also times it by 5, so remember this is going to give us a normalized vector, so between 0 and 1. So now my max value is 5. And I've also added a new vector that has a 5 element on the y, which means I'm giving it, no matter which direction I'm facing, I'm going to be giving it a little bit of lift so we can have that arc. So now let's run it and see what happens. Hopefully our tank will not have quite the traumatic experience that it had before. So things are still working. Rotating, now I'm firing off the edge like I expect. Now I'm firing left. Yes, we can see that it is working, and it is, again, it's being spawned in the correct spot, except now I am shooting in whatever direction my right is instead of right on the screen. So it's very important that we understand when we're spawning bullets and we're spawning objects in what direction we're spawning them and in whose perspective. So this is why I wanted to mention this. It's actually really easy if you know about it to use the transform.right, transform.forward, so right, forward, and down, up, up, up. So you have transform.right, transform.forward, and transform.up. What's the difference, you say? So transform.up is your y vector, so it's what's going to be what's above the object in the object's perspective. Transform.right is, as we see, to the right of the object in the object's perspective. And transform.forward, if memory serves, is positive on the z-axis. So I think this would be going away from the camera right now. So those are the 3 different transforms you have to place objects and to set objects' movements. How do you go left, down, and back? You just multiply -1 on the opposite vector. So if I want to go left, I'd multiply -5 or -1 to my transform.right, and I'd be going left. So that is how we can set directions based on where our object's been rotated. Otherwise, if we didn't have this option, it's not impossible, but it's some really tricky trig, and we don't really want to do trig. So we'll just use the transform dot right, up, and forward. All right, that will conclude the videos on prefabs. Thank you.